Okay, continuing where I left off. My dirty little secret is I'm actually continuing half a second after I left off, so but I try to keep the videos to maybe an hour at the most. So this pose I need to tighten up. Okay, that's gonna have to be redone. So it's kind of important to get this right. So I would say let's turn on the onion skins. And because it's hard to see, I'm going to darken these lines because these are my guidelines on the next pose. So that looks pretty good. Just to double check it. Well, I guess we never did see the other. Yeah, we never did see the wrappings before, so it's fine to just do it like this. Okay, so that's cool. Probably a little bit of cloth action here. Do ninjas wear loose clothes or tight clothes? Both. Loose-ish, I would say. Okay, so that's pretty good. And then obviously we're gonna just what's that? Oh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna dispense with the ties on his mask. I'm going to try to deal with those at this stage. We're not even going to think about that until ink time. So here, same situation. Okay, that was pretty quick and easy. Don't know what that is. Okay. Cool. Alright, so now we're at a close-up. And this is actually not too far off right out of the gate. So he's going to have he's got little sock things going on. And this little piece that represents the back of the, what would you call it, a slipper? I guess it's a slipper of sorts. Okay, that's really all there is to that. Yep, and we'll get this. Seeing mostly the bottom of his foot there. Alright. And this is probably kind of important. What we're going to want to do, we'll probably have like a animated overlay above the painting. You know, you're going to have a painting of the wall. Because again, if it's at all possible, we want this shot, we want to actually use this painting. So this is going to be a very high-res painting. I'm referring to the background. We're going to want that painting to be really high-res so that we can use it again here. But having said that, we'll probably have an animated overlay for the part of the stonework that gets busted out. Okay, so we got this line here. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, let's get rid of these motion lines. You don't have motion lines in the real world, but what we're going to have is something like this. Okay, where this is going to get broken out. Okay, and so you're going to have this piece of stone with probably a couple little extra pieces. Alright, so this is going to be fairly dark in here. Okay, good. Now, might as well turn the onion skins back off since we're not really referring to anything here. And drag this over here. Save early, save often. Okay, let's just take a look here for a moment. And obviously that crack changed. Probably that crack, this kind of stuff, will be part of the painting, not part of the animation. So we can be sure that that will remain consistent from frame to frame. So the main thing here is being accurate to this guy's design. Nope. Boom, boom. He's sort of horrified at what just happened. Okay, so now what we want to do is just go back to here and remember who this guy is. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to actually smooth that a little bit. I'm going to switch to this view so I can flip it. This is where being right-handed works against me a little bit. Not happy with that either. I'm going to take this out. I want to do it quickly. Okay, that's probably okay if we smooth it a bit. There, that's cool. Alright, so back to this. And then it actually helps to not have the camera here. Obviously some of his hair is going to actually be outside of the camera. Oops. Okay. This is all fairly straightforward. And I'm pretty sure we're outside of the camera now. Yeah, pretty close. Okay, and I want to feel like he's hugging the stonework pretty closely here. Like he's a little more nervous than our other guy. Okay, so the problem, let's think about this for a minute. Yeah, I'm going to say grab all of this, Control C, go to this frame, do a bunch of erasing, Control V, and I'm not going to deal with the stones falling right now. That's going to be fairly straightforward. We're going to want to draw the pieces and then do interpolated keyframes. So I'm going to make a note of that with my red comments. And we'll say draw stone piece large. So that's step 1. 2, shrink to the vanishing point. And then 3, we're going to interpolate all the keyframes. So it's going to go from essentially a piece like this will become, okay, I actually want to lock this so I can't grab it. Okay, Control C and Control V. We want to have comma so it sizes based on the volume of the strokes, not based on the cursor. Alright. And then we wind up with the... So this is all going to have to be animated pretty carefully. So let's unlock that and lock that back up, and now we're back to Akari. Okay, save that. Alright, let's see how that all feels. Now I'm still not 100% whippy on this motion, but I have to admit, my personal tastes tend toward comic books and or like Disney type animation, so I always have to force myself to be a little more limited for an anime type of aesthetic. I don't know if that made sense, but I trust that it did. So there's feels pretty good actually. Oh, I do have one question. This all feels like it happened a little too slowly. What's our spacing here? Okay, let me actually go to the mouse. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I don't like that. Let's tighten that up. And probably tighten that up as well. No, it's too tight, I think. Gotta make sure I move my comments along with my animation. So I'll just use the B key to box select that. So let's go back here. Boom. And I'm just going to keep looking at this. Okay, actually I just got a text. It's not the plumber. Or is it? Sorry about this. Excuse me for a moment. I'm going to send him the demo today. Yesterday I just called him and let him know it was on the way. So my son and I started a new business. If you go to premiermediadesign.com, I guess if I'm going to be shameless here. Okay, so this would be the hello? This would be the commercial media website. And one thing I've done for years and years is musical jingles. So if you go here, you can listen to our demo of jingles. I don't know if okay, so actually, let's do audio output capture and see if this works. This should be interesting. Let's turn on audio output capture and play this. Okay, so then we got to turn the level up. And it doesn't really seem to be working. Let's look at the properties. And yep, so I can't. Yeah, unfortunately I can't let you hear it because I don't want to take the time to figure out what's going on right now, but the audio output capture isn't working. Anyway, upshot is for 30 years plus I've been off and on done musical jingles, and my son called a prospect yesterday or 2 days ago that was interested in getting a musical jingle created for their radio advertising, and we came up with a concept that we need to send to them and see if they like it and they want to buy it. So anyway, okay, so we got this. I think we're in good shape. Let's say, because we can always tweak the timing a little bit downstream, of course. So oh, actually, as long as I've got you on the hook here, this you may find this interesting. I'm gonna load up Krita, and this has been a good exercise. Krita 4 for dealing with really large images and well, just extremely large images. I guess that's what I want to say. Is this is the first draft of a paperback fantasy novel book cover. So good example of something you can do in Krita. It's got probably, I don't know, it's got a lot of layers, man. You can see. So anyway, but unfortunately, that process was a little bit underwhelming when it came to the the vector layers in Krita because I tried to do the words, the title and stuff, and the author's name using the vector tools, and it was just hopeless. I mean, I actually had a little rant video that I created, and I never posted it because it's like, who wants to listen to me just rant? But yeah, the vector tools in Krita 4, you know, they're I get that they're excited that it's all been redone in so it's all SVG compliant now. So you can exchange stuff with Inkscape much better than you used to be able to. But when I tried to actually put some text objects into Krita's workspace, it was you try it. You run Krita 4 and start messing with text and try to do a layout like a book cover or a poster or whatever, where there's words involved, and see how you do with Krita's dealing with text. The vector tools are fine, but text specifically and fonts and stuff, hopeless. Not even close to being ready for prime time usage. So that bummed me out, but what I did was I just created those assets in Inkscape and then rendered them as a really high-res bitmap so that they could then be shrunk down in Krita and still look sharp, you know. So no big deal. So where are we at? Yeah, we've been recording for 20 minutes. I guess I better actually start being productive here, huh? And the way we're going to do that now, here we've got the similar situation that we've had before. This is just a zoom in of this. So we want to give our attention to this drawing, because we're going to actually wind up cutting and pasting it over into the next drawing. So with that, look what I just did. I was in the comments layer. That's kind of dangerous. You want to be careful not to be drawing in the wrong layer. And I'm thinking that a little bit of smoothing here and there will help me keep my lines under control. Okay, so what I'm going to actually do is pull back out and look at the next keyframe. Yeah, okay. I was looking at how I did her bangs. You know, we're pretty committed to Akari's look at this point. You know, we don't want to get to the point where we're ready to ink the animation and find out, well, gee, actually we don't like the way we drew her and we want her to look different or something. So it's kind of important that we are fairly committed to our design at this point. And again, I'm wanting to have pretty bold lines here. Nice and clean. So yeah, my son was wondering if the prospect okay, that was not what I was trying to do. If the prospect was legitimately interested in the jingle concept. I think when he contacted him, you know, the guy was open, but sometimes people are open to something, like you say, hey, I've got a concept here. What we do is we'll hear, we use an app. It's actually quite cool, in my opinion, called Simple Radio. Okay, so if you use this app, I don't know if anyway, it's called Simple Radio. Effectively allows you to listen to any radio station in the country. So if you're not in the country, that's okay too, because there's radio stations from Mexico, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Europe, whatever. Simple Radio seems to pull them in from all over the place. So we can effectively troll radio stations and find people that are advertising on a given radio station whose commercial sucks, basically. You know, they have what we call a rip and read, which means And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's kind of the cheap option, and it's a lot of people who advertise on radio. That makes her chin too big. I don't like that. A lot of people who advertise on radio do the simple thing, which is to just have the radio station put a spot together for you. A spot is a commercial, if you don't know that. And so it's just some music and the disc jockey talking over the music. Well, some people would argue probably that the idea of a musical jingle, when I say jingle, I mean like, McDonald's has always used jingles. I'm loving it. Burger King, hold the pickle, hold the lettuce, yada, yada, yada. So jingles have been, honestly, the gold standard for 100 years. If you want people to remember a radio commercial, it is almost always helpful to have a musical jingle. Now, the reasons for that have to do with the fact that there's usually not a lot of really high caliber creativity that goes into creating the average radio commercial, because these are just local radio stations, and there are, of course, there are talented people, but normally it's a pretty quick operation, and frankly, radio advertising's cheap. So there's not oodles and oodles of really amazing creativity that goes into a radio commercial. So usually it's, here's who we are, here's our location, family owned and operated for 18 years, trust us for quality service, basically a bunch of stuff that doesn't really say anything, and more importantly, doesn't give the listener a reason to notice and remember the commercial. If you want people to remember the commercial, arguably the cheapest, fastest, easiest, bestest way to get that improved recall. So basically, because remember, when people hear a radio commercial, it is very unusual that they act immediately. In other words, they're going to respond right now because they just happen to be wanting to buy what you're selling. So that creates the problem of how do you cause people to recall you when they are ready to buy. And the best way to do that is with a musical signature, if you will, that they're going to, once they've heard it a few times on their local radio station, they just remember it, and they're going to be sort of humming along, hopefully, if it's a good jingle. And so that's what we do. One of the ways we pay the bills is we create radio jingles. Basically anything artsy fartsy, like the book cover I just showed you, anything like that is stuff that I do. So I've done a lot of web development. Obviously, a lot of you guys know that I've written and directed quite a few feature films. You might think that all movie directors are rich. Not true. I had one movie that did make about $1 million, but I probably saw 5% of that, and that's normal. I mean, if a Disney movie makes, believe me, if a Disney movie makes $100 million, the director isn't getting half of that, not even close. So you got to keep your expectations realistic. But having said that, I'm very grateful that I've been able to take on that challenge, of writing and directing movies and actually having them distributed, which is pretty cool. But frankly, I'm bored with it. I've done it so many times that it's like, the challenge is kind of gone. I've sort of been there, done that. Hence, anime. Getting into animation is something I've been interested in since I was in high school. So, and for me, that's quite a long time ago. So with the release of my most recent film, which hopefully, let me see if I can pull this up. because it's actually coming out here shortly, and I should be able to show you the poster, which frankly I did not design, but the distributor I thought did a really good job. I gotta show you this. So this is the movie that's coming out basically in September. It'll be out everywhere. Called Healed by Grace 2, 10 Days of Grace. So it's a sequel to Healed by Grace 1. And so that'll be out everywhere. But once I finished that movie, I sort of decided, you know, kind of tired of doing the movie thing. And I may come back to it. I've got a really kind of funny but gross, not gross, but I have a funny concept for a you've all probably seen the movie where you got a bunch of teenagers, they go out in the woods or whatever, and they wind up getting killed one by one, and I shouldn't laugh. What's funny about that, right? But if you don't take it too seriously, it is because it's so ridiculous, the things that happen in those kinds of movies. Okay, so I have a real problem right now. And my real problem is this is completely wrong. That looks way, way, way too small. So we got to fix that. Frankly, this probably... Actually, I'm going to do it this way. Okay. I'm just going to stretch that out. Yeah, much better. So yeah, after I finished that movie, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and chase that anime thing, you know. And I wasn't really doing musical jingles for a long time. The most prevalent thing in the last few years has been web development, because that's, you know, I mean, that's the thing everybody wants. Everybody needs a website. But then my son sort of expressed an interest in the jingle thing, so we sort of started doing that again. So anyway, that looks pretty good. You like Akari? Take a look. I guess she probably could use some eyebrows, but I wanted to get this drawing correct because in the next frame when I close up, I'm just going to actually blow this one up to get that, you know, so I don't have to do the same work twice kind of thing. So, anyway. Okay. Oh, okay, good idea. Cool. Right. We're having to take some steps to make sure we're going to have water since we're going to have it turned off for a little bit today. Okay. Good. Thank you for doing that. Alright, 10:19. Yeah, still haven't heard back from the time the plumber is going to be doing this. Didn't hear my phone beep at me, so. Okay, so Akari, these, the bedpost. I'm feeling, I guess this perspective seems wrong to me, so I think the reason for that must be that the unicorn thing, which I'm going to draw in simplified form at the moment, was too high, so it was throwing off the center. So let's say there's the points on the mattress. Yeah, that's better. That's what we want. Okay, so if we go across like that, then we say, alright, let's, I don't know what the geometry is, so I'm just going to sort of figure it out here on the fly. If we bisect that, and from a perspective standpoint we bisect that, then we get this, we get some guidelines maybe for this arc. And it seems to me my concept for the headboard was something like that. But am I remembering wrong is the question, so let's go back and see. if I've fouled it up. Okay, back here there was no circular raised part in the headboard. Okay, the funny thing is we actually have 3 versions of it. Here there is no raised part. Here it raises to a point, and then here it's like circular. So what are we gonna do? Well, for me, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a hybrid. So this is gonna be a painting because it's a background. It's not gonna be. So I think that we'll be able to put, excuse me, a little more detail in that. Okay. So now do we want to stretch these strokes up and then use that, or do we want to just do it all small and then plan to move the camera? Well, my basic philosophy has been to bake camera animation into this as little as possible, and if it's clearly a different shot, I don't want to do a camera move. I just want to leverage the work I did before. So for that reason, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the A key so that nothing's selected. I'm just going to grab this and Control C. Okay. Actually, you know what? Well, let me paste it in here and size it up. Okay, okay, I can live with that. And I'll just clean it up. So we want to get rid of the the random sketches of the hair. If this zone is a little different than the wide shot, no one's ever going to notice that. So that's okay. And the big difference here is in her nose. So we want to get rid of that nose. We want to put that shadow zone in there. But the idea is that her nose is going to wrinkle because it's irritating. And then I think let's zoom way in here so we can use our eraser most effectively. Sorry, I'm shaking the whole world apparently. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, then she flips. So actually we need some in-betweens. It's in-between time, folks. I'm gonna go like this. Actually, you know what I should do? Let's put this back in. Okay, and we'll just split this. Select all these and hit the G key to move it around so it inserts keyframes. So now we've just preserved that pose. Now we can go in and soften this back up again. And let's go ahead and I'm going to put her nose, I'm actually going to literally redraw the nose like that. Yep. Okay, so now that's great. So now what we have is this. And I'm going to say we just, oops, we want to in between that. So let's just go like that. Put a slight indication like that. Okay, let's see if that did what we hoped it would do. Okay. Okay, so for this shot, I think we're going to grab this. Rotate that. Move it slightly. And now let's just see. I wonder if it's possible to... I wonder if there's a way... Yep, sure enough. You hit the Alt key. Okay, so what I was going to say is you hit the Alt key and roll your mouse wheel, and it actually scans through your keyframes. Frankly, it's a little clunkier than just dragging. But in any case, what I want to do is just see how this feels. Okay, yeah, obviously the timing is completely off. Why do we have content here in the comments layer? So I'm going to hit those two and get rid of them and see what happens. Okay, I like that. No, I don't like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Trying to do everything on twos. Sorry, I just blew that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it went too far. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to do everything on twos, so everything's an increment of either 2 or 4 frames. If I want smooth in between motion, it tends to be 2. I'm going to see if I can get away with 4 here. Let's see. Not so much. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's duplicate this keyframe there and just do another in between. So I'm going to turn on the onion skins. Oh boy, that's not very helpful. But we'll give it a crack. So how would we do this? Well, we take this and bring it down just a skosh. If you don't know what a skosh is, you should ask your mother. And we're just gonna add another little tweak on twos, so we just get a nice, yeah. And I'm thinking we'll turn on projected and then really pick this up. Okay, what we actually want to do here is grab a lot of stuff so that we can actually turn the proportional editing down. I don't know if that makes sense. In other words, if I just grab this and I want to grab a range of the strokes, then I'm going to want the proportional editing zone to be fairly large. But then it's hard to get just what you want and eliminate what you don't want. So therefore, grab a bunch, but then have the proportional editing fairly low. So we get a little bit of motion. So what I'm really after here is, my concept is, I'm going to hit the period key, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate I just want a little bit of... Okay, and honestly, if I was going to really do it right, I'd probably interpolate that. And then I'd go... I'm really spitballing here, but we're going to give it a try. And interpolate that as well. Let's just see what happens. I can always undo it a couple times. and in fact, I will guarantee I'm going to undo it because I like what I'm seeing, but at the same time, I don't want to sort of commit to the, yeah, I don't like that. It's too stiff. It looks like bad keyframe interpolation. So I'm just going to do a bunch of undos here. Okay. And plus, with anime, you want to err on the side of less. You know, the problem I'm having right now is my Blender project is set at 24 frames a second. I probably should have done it at 12, but that introduces other problems later. For example, I render out the animation. Now I have to bring it into, in my case, either Sony Vegas, or you could do it in OpenTunes and then have it renumber it on 2s so that the 12 frame per second animation is reinterpolated up to 24. In other words, every frame gets doubled. Not a big deal, but it is something you want to be aware of. So for my purposes, the way I'm dealing with that in the interim is to leave the project at 24 frames a second and just make sure all my keyframes, it would be very unusual to see any keyframes that are in adjacent frames. In other words, on ones. Now, that becomes a problem when you have Blender interpolate like this. Now in the case of her breathing, I'm kind of fine with that being 24 frames a second, although I'm sure I will experiment with cutting out every other one so it's actually on 2s and just see how that feels. It'll probably be fine. And so, and if that's the case, then just on principle we probably should leave it on 2s. Okay. So something about that's wrong. I like the I don't know why we keep getting, I think what might be going on here is when I'm duplicating keyframes, maybe I'm grabbing up here, I'm grabbing the dope sheet summary, and so what's happening is it's duplicating if there's a comment. In other words, if there's something on the comments layer, and obviously you can only see one at a time. So if there could be multiple keyframes here that are overlapping each other. So if I duplicate that frame, then both layers get duplicated. Well, I don't really want that. I don't want keys in the comment layer unless there's a good reason for them to be. So this right here is erroneous, and indeed it turns out to be erroneous. Now, and so is this. This one is not erroneous because this is necessary in order to erase this. Okay, hope that makes sense. Okay, so the problem I'm having now has to do with that shrug thing. Let's see what happens if we move it up so it's all on 2s. Okay, I'm going to actually just take that out. I don't really see it helping. And actually what would probably make more sense here, I am going to insert a comment actually. And then I think, whoa, 48 minutes? I don't know how I managed that. Apparently I've been talking for 48 minutes. So I'm going to go to the comments layer, and I want to specify right here, we're going to camera push in. So that there's a slow, alright, and then, so I think what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and illustrate that now, and then that'll be it for today. So here's how I'm going to do that. Let's save early, save often, because frankly, I'm not going to keep what I'm about to do. I'm not going to keep. So I'm going to hit the tab key so that I'm back in object mode, and then in my case, because I've got the camera on a different layer that is actually hidden, I'm going to go ahead and activate all my layers with the tilde key. Now I can grab my camera, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on automatic keyframing, and I'm going to move that around like that. And then between here and here, actually between here and here, just going to go like that. and it didn't work. So what that means is right here, when I move the camera around, but I didn't actually move it. I wiggled it around, but then hit escape, so it didn't. It's not like the grease pencil; it doesn't automatically insert a keyframe. Something, in fact, has to change in order for that keyframe to get inserted. Yeah, see now, what I was trying to accomplish with her moving her shoulder and sort of wiggling around has been solved for me by putting that camera move in there. So, because it gives it life, right? So that looks fine. That's perfect. Okay, so now, yeah, 50 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just run the whole thing. Zoom in a bit. There's Akari sleeping. We need to paint the outside of the monastery. These guys climb up. This guy's not particularly thrilled with what he sees because his buddy's struggling. He drops this thing. And then Akari is a little irritated. And frankly, that camera move was a little bit abrupt. He's bummed out. His friend is really irritated now. Come on, let's get moving. And you can see the whole scene is screwed up now because the camera is actually zoomed in compared to where it was when I did all the animatics. So for that reason, I'm not going to save this project. I saved it a minute ago. So that's it for now, and more later. We'll get her done.